I mean, again, there's a saying out there that those who distrust the government on what foods they eat, what medicines they take, their souls will be in a worse state than those souls. Their bodies will be in a worse state than those souls who live under tyranny. I mean, so think about that for a second. These cereals and the subsidies that they have in place, these foods are nutritionally bankrupt, laced with chemicals, pesticides, what you name it. I mean, we spray 80 million pounds of glyphosate on our soil every year. Another reason Bobby is going to be a great candidate, because he took Monsanto to the Supreme Court and proved that the glyphosate that we're using in our soils are carcinogenic. And, they were feeding this to our children. I mean, I remember having a gentleman come into my office, and he would eat Cheerios all the time and had all these gut issues. And I said, dude, just cut out the Cheerios. Let's just see what that does. And about a week or 2 weeks later, he came in and goes, I feel great. And I said, he's like, I thought Cheerios were healthy. I'm like, well, people say that Cheerios are super high in glyphosate. So let's just see if that helps you out. And you look at one of those cereals they had on the video there. It was I think it's a red box. I don't even know the name of it. But there was TSP, trisodium phosphate, on these cereals. Are you kidding me? And that's a known carcinogen. It's outlawed in every other country in the world except for the U.S. Why do we give this to our children? Do these cereal companies not have any integrity? Seriously, like, we should have these people. The people should go to the manufacturers and be like, what the hell is this about? And why are you giving this to the children and spending millions of dollars in advertising and these children feeding this to our children? There's an agenda. Children.
This is like, especially this subject hits home to me. I worked in a research facility where we would test all certain types of drugs and chemicals on animals, right? And unfortunately, what they use a lot of the times, it's not monkeys because they're too expensive and they fight back, weird, right? But they use beagle dogs. And so we would have thousands upon thousands of beagle dogs because they're very docile. You can pick them up. They love to be held, and you can shove a tube down their throat and then gavage them with the test material so they wouldn't puke it up. And then you would monitor, depending on the type of study and how long the study was. And they would always have several different groups. The males would be on top and the females would be on the bottom. And then group 1 would get the placebo, the saline, right? Group 2 would get a little, group 3 get a little more. Then you'd have these poor sons of bees over here in group 6 and 7 that would get 1,000 times what a human would ingest just to see what would happen. And we would see, I've tested vaccines and antibiotics, but the one that I remember the worst was pesticides.
Right.
They would dump pesticides on this food, and the dogs would literally starve themselves because they wouldn't eat the food. That was the only thing they were given. Right. And these dogs look like skeletons because they refused to eat it. The same pesticides that probably American children are ingesting, not even realizing. These dogs wouldn't eat it. They would rather starve to death than eat this garbage.
And this is something that we have to address. We have to talk about. As doom and gloom as it may be, we have to understand that our dollars count. When we spend money, we're voting at the stores. And so we need to, support our local farmers, the small farmers, because they're an endangered species right now. And, whoever controls the oil controls, the economy, but who controls the food controls the people. And so we have to really endorse and encourage organic farming more now than ever before. But these pesticides, like you talk about, there's a lot of technology that runs deep in these pesticides. And it's not just, hey, killing, bacteria, there's a lot more to these pesticides than the masses realize. And, like glyphosate, for an example, it acts like the world's most powerful antibiotic. And it also acts like a chelator. So what that'll do, it'll pull minerals from the body, pull every single nutrient out of the body. It'll kill off all the bacteria in the body. So, again, you can't absorb anything. It really just wipes out your microbiome, like not just a little, like all of it. And it's massively toxic, inflammatory, and carcinogenic, you name it. It's one of the most powerful toxins on the planet. And, we spray this on our soil thinking that this is going to be good.